Pokemon Sword and Shield are definitely my least played Pokemon games. And that's not to say that they're bad. Genuinely, I think they're very solid entries in the series. There are so many quality of life features that are taken for granted nowadays. And while I think some of the critiques towards these entries they're warranted, I think the majority of the hate towards these games is honestly a bit much. Which is why when I had the opportunity to return to the Crown Tundra for some Dynamax Adventures this weekend, I jumped at the opportunity. This weekend, BlueVacktor is hosting DA Weekend, an event for shiny hunters to return back to Generation 8 to hunt for some shinies in Dynamax Adventures. And originally, I wasn't certain I'd be participating. At the time of writing this, I'm still in the midst of working on my Rayquaza raid video. But after some thought, I decided it would be an excellent opportunity for a freshman content creator like myself to participate in. Let me walk you through everything that happened. Before we begin, I should probably tell you just how little I played Pokemon Sword and Shield. I had a brief period starting at Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and ending right before the release of the Isle of Armor, where I just did not play any Pokemon. Which means I've never even finished the Ultra games, and I didn't even own Let's Go until about a year ago. I returned to Pokemon with Pokemon Shield, which at the time was everybody's favorite Pokemon game. I remember at least enjoying my playthrough, playing around with what little post-game existed at the time, and eventually getting to experience the Isle of Armor around the same time everybody else did, despite being almost a year late to actually playing the base game. So, long story short, in total I have less than 120 hours into the game, and that number is after recording this entire video. Compare that to my file of Pokemon Scarlet and, well, you get the idea. With that being said, the majority of that playtime is from the Crown Tundra. I actually remember the second DLC very fondly, as most of the community also did to my understanding. I really loved the Galarian birds, especially Zapdos, and I thought the story was at least interesting enough to keep me around, but to be honest, nobody plays Pokemon games for the story. So having the chance to return to the Max Lair for some shiny hunting sounded perfect. Maybe I would finally be able to appreciate this game mode for its merits, its quality gameplay, it's got Porygon. Love that guy. But I think that's more than enough about my personal experience. Let's talk more about the challenge. DA Weekend, hosted by BlueVacktor, is usually a 3-day long event where shiny hunters across the community come back to Generation 8 with one unified goal in mind: finding shiny Pokemon in the Max Lair. And while I don't necessarily consider myself a shiny hunter, I'd say with 75% of my portfolio being shiny hunting at this point, it sounded like way too much fun to skip. Now you're probably wondering, what Pokemon are you hunting for? Lugia is probably my favorite box art legendary, and would absolutely be in the top 5 legendaries for me, which is a sentiment I believe is shared among a lot of Pokemon fans. Its design, while simple, is instantly recognizable, and is a fan favorite for a very good reason.
As a sophisticated, upper-class Pokemon Soul Silver enjoyer such as myself,
it felt natural that my goal would be to finally claim this shiny. I mean, look at it. Look at shiny Lugia. Look at it right now. It's not breaking new ground or anything like that, but it's really eye-catching, and it stands in excellent contrast to normal Lugia, switching from one end of the color spectrum to nearly the opposite side. There is just one small problem. Not only am I playing in single player for this challenge, my Pokedex is not even complete. So while everybody else is enjoying 1 in 100 odds, I'm playing at 1 in 300. And I don't even have another copy of the game to dual hunt it either. But I think I've been talking for way too long. Let's actually get into the challenge now. I planned on using Friday to get acclimated for the long weekend ahead of me. I figured I'd do a few runs after work to get situated before hunting all weekend long. So after doing literally nothing to get ready at all, I hit the court. I picked Bronzong by complete accident on my first run through because I was spacing out. Regardless, my mission for the first day was pretty simple. Step 1, find the bird. Step 2, it a lot, I hope. At this point, you're probably wondering, shouldn't you have spent some time to find Lugia before the event started? My first attempt ended up being a Dark-type final boss, and I know I've been wrong about Pokemon types over here before, but maybe
Yeah, that's not Lugia. I beat Yveltal to death with a hammer out of anger, and then I got my very first 4 encounters. Is what I'd say if I didn't forget to catch one of them. And I mean, since this one went so well, that probably means all of them will go well, right?
No. Why would you think that?
Fair warning, I would be losing a lot going forward. After doing just 4 raids today, I managed to beat 3 of them, got 14 encounters, and obviously didn't find anything cool. At this point, I felt pretty acclimated and I thought I was ready to go for some smooth sailing tomorrow. My first full-length day of hunting started a lot like yesterday. I spent a lot of time sitting, doing Dynamax Adventures, out and getting stuck, finding Lugia, getting frustrated at my turning horses into blue, winning some, losing some. There is a lot of bulk recording that I'm certain you don't care about, so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of what happened because I value both your time and my sanity. My first DA of the day is a prime example of what I don't like about Dynamax Adventures. My teammate ended up picking Grimmsnarl, which in theory sounds awesome, but allow me to demonstrate why that is not good. When your teammates have any status move, you might as well just write them off and do everything in your power to get rid of their Pokemon in between rounds. This stupid Grimmsnarl would set up screens, which is fine I guess, and then spend the rest of the fight using Power Swap, whether it's beneficial or not. Luckily, they would immediately get replaced by the Lairon we were fighting, but this will become a trend. If I ever see another Dedenne after this event, I will be putting it in the hydraulic press. Regardless, we wouldn't end up beating the Raikou at the end of the path, mostly thanks to this stupid frog, and obviously I didn't find a shiny either. A couple of runs later, I had one of the most interesting runs of the day. I picked Scyther because my other options were lucky for me, the final boss would be a psychic type, which if you don't know, that's what Luger is. Yeah! I know it's probably not Lugia, but I'm really good at setting my expectations high just to be let down immediately. I learned some pretty valuable lessons from the half-dozen attempts prior to this one. If you aren't sure what the final boss is, it's a valuable skill to pick the path of least resistance. Even if you see a strong ally on another path, it's better most of the time to pick a path you know you can win at, especially if your team is already good. But this also applies if your team is garbage. So it is really too bad that Heliolisk of all things took 2 of our lives. After all of that I just said about picking the path of least resistance, which made this hurt even more. Mewtwo is really scary, is what I'd say if he didn't throw the entire match and let us win. And certainly this wouldn't inflate my ego for future runs. I am literally the best there ever was. The next several runs would have a lot of the same stuff, losing lives to Pokemon that absolutely should not be doing that, having just the worst possible raid partners, finding all manner of Pokemon, and most importantly, leaving empty-handed. Regardless, I kept on doing what I do best, not finding Lugia anywhere. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been easier for me to find Lugia beforehand to be prepared and ready and whatnot, but this does set me up for success, is what I'm telling myself. Having Lugia be the end of my day lines me up for more strategy and hopefully results tomorrow. I ended Saturday at around 200 encounters, and I don't think I got any shinies, but who's really counting anyways? It's me, I'm counting. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, Sunday would feel a lot like Saturday with one small difference. I was actually hunting for something today. Having a defined goal and finding Lugia gave me some sort of hope, though it was becoming increasingly likely that I would end my DA weekend completely empty-handed. I know I'm not even at half odds right now, but like, please game, give me something? Like, anything, really. I would take a shiny Glalie at this point. I hope that's not foreshadowing. Basically, nothing interesting happened for the first half of my day. That was until I found... you thought I was gonna say I found a shiny, didn't you? I wish that was true. No, I found Porygon. And after that, Look, I'm gonna level with you here. Dynamax Adventures is a lot of repetition. I'm experiencing all of the same exact stuff I've been seeing all weekend long, even 200 plus runs in. I pick a Pokemon, my partners pick awful Pokemon, I struggle some more, and I either win or I lose. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I don't think any of that is interesting to watch. I could go over every little nuance of every run I did, but that video would be over 20 hours long. So How are we going to fix this and get Lugia as fast as I can? Well, I'm going to make it even more repetitive. I'm sure you've had an experience like this. You get the perfect set of Pokemon to run a DA. You don't lose any lives, and you always beat the final boss. Only to never see a run that good again. But what if I told you, for a small fee, you could save that perfect path? If you get through a particularly good Dynamax adventure and you think you could do it again just like that, shut off your game. Immediately, you'll reset your game to find out that your whole path has been saved. All of the NPC choices, every Pokemon on the board, all of it. After a while, you do have to pay for it with Dynite Ore, but this far in, that's a very small price to pay. So, after doing some R&D and finding a really good path for Lugia, I decided to give it a shot. The run begins with me picking Pangoro, who seems tailor-made to fight Lugia. My starting partners are Klinklang, Crawdaunt, and Miltank. We start on the path with Glalie and KO it basically for free. At this point, I can either pick the path with Gmax Colossal or Rotom. Both work excellent for Lugia. My Crawdaunt will always pick this Pokemon instead, which works fine. We then move on to Tyrantrum, a potential alternate shiny hunt I've been looking for in case I don't get Lugia. This path allows us to beat Lugia roughly 90% of the time, unless we get unlucky sometime before then. This method vastly improves the single-player Dynamax Adventure experience. The only thing it doesn't do is increase the shiny odds. Yeah, I really did end the final day of DA weekend with 0 shiny Pokemon. I really wish I could tell you that I pulled through with a buzzer beater to end my weekend, even something that I wasn't hunting for maybe, but what are you gonna do? What are you doing? Don't look at the video link. After waking up the next day completely shinyless, I felt totally defeated. There was absolutely no way I would just post this video without finding a shiny. Who would watch something like that? That was until I checked my phone, and the best news I had ever received was on my screen. DA weekend this year would be one extra day. I had one last chance to find a shiny on time, so 8 hours later after work, I put it all on the line. I kid you not, on the final day of the event, on my very first run of the day, almost exactly at odds after not phasing a single time, I skipped all the way to the front of the line, missed any potential phases, and immediately got shiny Lugia. You could put 7 figures on the table right now, and I couldn't fathom an ending that's better than this. I do not deserve this. There were so many other shiny hunters during this event that didn't get legendaries, some even with the shiny charm, and here I am with absolutely 0 prep work going into the event, finding the one and only Pokemon I was hunting for. I found shiny Lugia after 302 encounters with no shiny charm in single player. That sounds like I made it up.
Leaking new Generation 10 Pokemon games. What the heck?
Now, did I end up enjoying Dynamax Adventures like I had hoped? Well, kinda. There are some obvious flaws with this game mode, especially in single player, but it's hard to argue with results. I did get what I was hunting for, but I want you to know how insanely lucky I was not to phase a single time. It was entirely within the realm of possibility that I could still be hunting to this day when this video is releasing now, instead of having the result I did. It would be a lie to say I didn't have fun, but there were definitely some aspects of the journey that I would never like to experience again. So, I kinda enjoyed Dynamax Adventures, but I am absolutely willing to return to the lair and try again in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.